got two.
Okay.
The Chinese New Year holiday, so I played a bunch of games and sort of got up to speed a little bit.
Gotcha. So if you're going off lane, I would have rather seen you go 2 branches than the Quelling Blade.
Yep.
Because you can get the Quelling Blade at the side shop, and when you have this upgraded, and a point or 2 in this, you're just like, they can't really do anything about you.
That's right.
Especially if you also get your Soul Ring, then you're sitting on like 10 health regen at like 4 minutes in the game as an offlaner.
Yeah.
You should be filling up your quick buy a little bit more than you are. Like, you could have put your boots and your wand in there too.
I actually don't know how to do that.
If you shift control click.
Shift control.
Yeah. You can have up to 8 components in it.
Okay, right.
I would have liked... you should have checked his regen.
Yes.
Because if you know he only has 2 tangos left, and you know that you always can get like another point in this, and then when you have a point in this, you like... Right now, if the trading is even, you're definitely going to win it. Because he doesn't have any regeneration, and you have some built in. And this just gets stronger and stronger. So any little trades that you can make with him... If you know, like, if he has a salve, it kind of, like, negates a lot of it. But, if you know that he doesn't have one, then it's, you're a lot more likely to, take, even trades and feel like you're actually getting ahead from him, which you are.
Yeah, I had the feeling I could trade pretty well with him on that night, so you'll see that I do.
Yeah, it's just kind of like if he had a salve, it would have been... Like, what you did was fine, but you didn't know that it was fine because you didn't check his items. Because if he had a salve, it would have been a little bit different. Also, if I would have... if you were using your quick buy, you would have been a lot more likely to consider that you could have got your 2 branches and flew them out, and then got your wand at the side shop. Like, you had the gold for it. But of course, you didn't know how to do the thing, so it's not too... Yeah. So it's not too big of a deal. And this is fine. The only reason that I like what you're doing here is because the creep wave is so pushing into your side that you're gonna have to tank these creeps anyways, right?
Yeah.
So that's the only reason what you're doing is fine. In most situations, I wouldn't like this though. But of course, this happens to be really good. So you're like accidentally doing a lot of good shit, or you're just completely next level. One of the two.
Yeah.
Let me go back real quick. I would have... So he's not harassing you a lot, right?
No.
You have a good amount of regen left, and you have a soul ring on the way. With all that considered, what do you think I'm gonna say that you should be doing?
Maybe you'll say that I should have skilled with the point of flame instead of the other thing. Yeah.
Because this almost doubles the damage it's doing with minimal mana increase. And now you're just kind of like gonna be sitting on 10 health regen and not really needing it
Yeah.
Tiny little things, but all of these things add up. Like, if he lives with like 50 health, it's because of this one mistake. You should be getting your boots instead of going for the drums, because if you have your boots, you can easily just keep right-clicking him. This is good. I was about to say you should push it out because he's not showing. You want to make him either lose the gold or show. Should Soul Ring here and nuke down the wave because you're strong enough that they can't really do anything to you. You want to be using the Soul Ring here because your health is maxed and you have a bunch of mana or health regen. So like right now you could just have 120 more mana. Lol. You don't even need to be going back here. If you can just stay and last it. By the time that he comes back, if you're eating a tango, you'll be about full anyways.
Yeah.
So you're kind of just missing a wave here. And if you were using your Soul Ring more proactively there, you would have had full mana also. You're destroying the lane, it's just you could have done it like a lot harder.
Yeah.
I also don't think that you should have got a third point in this because you're already so strong.
Yeah, you don't need.
Yeah.
You should have got the stun.
Yeah, and now that you have your ult, your stun can be ranged.
Yeah.
If you get a fourth point in it at level 9, it's a huge mistake because then you won't have it until 11. Yeah. Feels bad.
Yeah.
I would be soul ringing and nuking him like every time it's off cooldown. And your greedy ass took the tome.
Yeah, well. I could be a good teammate, but...
Your Slardar would have really liked that. The amp damage. Yeah, this is just kind of like... You had so many ways to pressure advantage that this guy should have been completely shit on. And now he's level 12, and the only reason they killed you is because he had his extra... Yeah. So if you were just kind of like spamming, throwing out stuns or breathing on him whenever he shows up with Soul Ring, he would have been so crippled that that kill wouldn't have happened. And this is kind of like going to be a turning point of... Well, you're still going to be annoying, and it's still going to take a few heroes to kill you, but it's a lot easier to kill you the second time than it is the first time.
Yeah.
And I would have liked to have seen you go Shadow Blade. Because Blink Dagger and Shadow Blade kind of fit into the same role-ish, where it's basically you want to get in melee range and get a stun off. The thing with Shadow Blade is it scales, like the stats, it has stats on it, and it allows you to scout out people, and you don't really have anyone on your team that scouts. And you want to, like, if you can scout out a Queen of Pain in her jungle that's like at 80%, and then you can follow up with a stun, like your stun and then Slardar stun and like a rocket. She's dead for sure, but there's no way you can set that up without one sec. Without what was I saying? You can't set that up without finding her with the Shadow Blade.
Yeah.
Plus, eventually you can take off Axe's spin and shit.
Oh, with the super bridge, yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. So, is it that Blink is always worse on Dragon Knight, or is it worse?
What was that?
Is it that Blink is always worse on Dragon Knight, or is it just in this case?
In this case, it's worse, I would say. Like, if you had a Ricky on your team, I would be a lot less happy. I would say getting Shadow Blade would be, like, really bad if you had a Ricky on your team.
Sentry would.
Yeah, and they have more sentries, and you already have somebody that can scout out for you. And it's more of, he finds somebody, and then you need to instantly be on them. And they'll already have dust, so you can't just run away with it. You're not forcing them out. You're not forcing regen out of them that they didn't already have to get. But yeah, at this point, like, you go into fights and you don't really do much because you have 113 damage. So aside from your spells, like Shadow Blade would give you a lot more damage, like 22 more damage. That's about 15-16%, and then the attack speed on top of it.
The DPS is about 5.
Yeah. Not too much to say about that one. I also don't really like the drums.
Okay.
You had your mana solved by the Soul Ring, so the mana regen's wasted. And it's kind of like, you want to go drums if you want to push early. So like, if you got the drums, it would have been decent if you did do what you were supposed to do if you get the drums, which is push early. But you were ahead, and you could have got like an armlet or something like that instead. And if you imagine your hero with an armlet right now instead of drums, and they're about the same cost.
Yeah, it's a lot better.
Yeah, it's only, what is that? Only like 700 more. And then you would have.
That's what I should have had.
Yeah, you would have had. What is it? 65 more damage. Plus, you'd have like 1,000,000 armor.
Yep.
And nobody on your. I guess your Terrorblade kind of scales with it, but that's. Terrorblade's like the only hero on your team that really cares about your drums, for the attack speed at least. I think the build would have been Armlet, Shadow Blade, BKB. Because, like, what do they do? Even if they swap you and call you in, like, their tower, you still don't really care. At least not until later in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, the heart's a mistake, at least this early. A BKB would have done a lot more for you. Like, you just took a huge-ass fight, and you're gonna be full health by the time the next fight happens anyways. So you're missing out on all of the regen component of Heart, and then if we look at... Heart gives you like 900, I think?
Yeah.
Or, what? No, actually it's... Isn't it like 1300? Shit. I thought it used to give you like 900 health. So I guess that gives a shit ton of health. But, I'm thinking about Armlet against Heart. Because Armlet gives you more damage than Heart does. And you're already tanky enough. So, like, Armlet would have been doing more in these fights for you than a Heart would. Even though Heart is 2.5 times as expensive. At this point, you should definitely have your Soul Ring instead of your Stout Shield. There you go. That Stout Shield doesn't... Stout Shield kind of sucks the more armor you get. Especially with your health regen. Like, it just doesn't do much, especially later in the game. But 120 health, the 2 strength, or the 2 regen, and then not having mana problems is huge. And now that you have a Heart, you should be, even before this, you should have been spamming your Soul Ring and just farming with your Q. Like, non-stop. And, like, now you're out of mana because you have a Stout Shield instead of a Soul Ring.
Right.
I don't like this. I would have rather seen you just, like, attack the tower away from your Terrorblade. Because if your Terrorblade's here and you're here, and then he goes in on the Terrorblade, you just stun him. If he goes in on you, who cares? You're a fucking Dragon Knight with 3,500 health. And you melt this tower with your attacks and your, what is it, your poison or whatever. So this, like, at the very least, you should have attacked this once to get your poison on it. But you jump in on these guys when, it's kind of like, what's the point of killing heroes? Usually, like, whenever you go to kill a hero, what is usually the objective of it?
Take something else off to the hero.
Let me turn down my, what was that?
I would say to take something else after you kill the hero.
Yeah, basically. If nothing else, it's to, like, get a lead. If it's, like, a free kill. But basically, heroes are just in the way of towers. And, can they stop you from taking this tower right now? If you just sit over here and the Terrorblade's over here, they can't stop you from taking this tower. So what's the point on going on them?
Right. Yeah, there is. Right.
And now your Terrorblade ends up dying because you're too deep. You can't help him. And then the tower would have been dead by now if you were attacking it from the start, and you would have been able to go over and help the Terrorblade. And this is probably where you lost the game.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then you're going for a Maelstrom when you don't really need it at all. Like again, BKB would have been really good. Because the, this guy's stun, this guy's silence, and whatever, but mostly Ricky's Cloud is going to be annoying as shit. You can't attack in it, and you can barely run away in it, and you can't cast spells in it. And he's usually just going to drop it on you. Again, you should be Soul Ringing and nuking it down. That's kind of why I think Maelstrom's useless. It's like you're not using your spells effectively, and then you feel like you can't push the wave, so you got a whole nother item to make up for.
Yeah, just Soul Ring plus.
This is good. We're finding a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that this might be where the game's over, depending on the next like minute or two.
Oh yeah, it is. I think we just basically lose to the split pushing and stuff.
Yeah. Hey, well, we can just cut this one, and then go to another one then. I might keep this lesson short because we already went over a lot of stuff.
Yeah, no problem.
That was... Do you want to go over the other Dragon Knight one?
Just quick on it so I remember the game. Not really. This one was a bad game. Yeah, I know everything that I did wrong in it.
You went for Midas,
yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, it was bad.
Feels
the first
bad.
thing I did after this game was go watch a guide.
Yeah, my take on Midas is basically on the heroes that can get away with it, it's correct like 2% of the time.
Right.
And even when it's correct, it's only slightly correct. And then
Yeah,
the
so
other, yeah, like 8% of the rest of the time, it's slightly wrong. And then 90% of the time, it's just horrible.
Very wrong, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll try and remember that overall.
Yeah, it's one of those,
nerfed, isn't it?
yeah, but I guess it's kind of like, you have to have a very good understanding of both, the whole matchup before you can consider Midas, and you have to consider your hero too. Like, looking at this game, I would say, especially because you went Armlet first, it depends on the laning phase also. But it's kind of like, I guess, the things that I look for that make me think Midas might be good is, both of the teams have a lot of wave clear and not so much push. Like, let's say we have a Tinker and they have a Sniper and a Pudge, and my Tinker's doing well and I'm doing well. And another thing to consider is how much space you have to farm, because Midas is very good for if you don't have much space. Like, let's say you have a Naga, an AM, and like a Sven. All of your shit's going to be dead all of the time, and then that 200 gold, or that Midas charge, is worth more than just instantly killing the creep. It's...
Yeah.
So you got to consider those things, but I'd be like, you guys don't really have that good of late game. Tinker can get really annoying if he gets a sheep stick, but Elsie, until she gets 25, she doesn't scale that well, and you also don't scale that well, no matter what you do. What's your level 25 talent, actually?
It's plus strength, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the stuns are really good. You have a 5-second stun, but it's like, you just sit there, kind of. You're just like there at level 25. And you basically do what you do at 25 minutes, but you just don't die with this hero. Or at least they like kill you last, because you have so much armor and health, and you don't really do too much damage.
It's more incentive for them to hit somebody else.
Yeah, so like your power spike is like, you drop off a lot after level 18. And that's why you want to go stuff like Armlet and Blink, or Drums, or Shadow Blade, and then BKB, and then try and end out the game, and then like maybe get one more item after that, if the push is like taking a while. But your hero, you don't have anything that makes you scale. You don't have a crit, you don't have an attack speed multiplier, you don't have a damage increase or anything. You're just like a right click that has some talents, and then whatever items you get. So by virtue of being a strength hero, you're really strong in the early game, because you can get Treads, Armlet, Soul Ring, and like a Shadow Blade, and hit for like 200 damage, but what else are you going to go after that increases your damage? Like, really nothing. You might like get a Critilis as your like 6th item, but you need a BKB, you need a heart. Yeah, you just kind of like fall off. So the Midas wouldn't really be good on this guy in almost any case, I would say.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So we got like a few more minutes, but I'm gonna call this at the 30-minute mark. So I could just go through your games and look at your builds. Where are you? What's your name on here?
Oh, I'm not online on Steam. It's that one that DDL. Scroll up. Wait, I am online. Why am I online?
Sneaky. DDL. Okay.
I think it's. Yeah. Scroll up.
There you go. We can look at this one because we're on the topic of Dragon Knight.
It's bad. I wouldn't look at that.
Well, I'm just looking at the build.
The same error that I made before. It's repeated in this game.
The only time that I'd really get Maelstrom on this guy is if they have like a PL or something, because the Maelstrom's like decent-ish, but you want the Mulgeneer to clear out the illusions so that you can find the real one, stun them, and then kill them. But even then, it's kind of like your level 2 ult has a splash anyways, so it's still not even that great.
Right. So if I was against like Naga and PL and I don't know, Terrorblade,
yeah,
you can sort of justify it. But
well, it's more of like, I guess if you are the only solution to the PL, then I might get it. But if you have your level 2 ult and you have like a few basic AoEs like a Lion stun or an LC nuke or something like that, then I wouldn't really consider getting it. Unless the PL is getting like huge and he's the only concern on the enemy team and you're the best one to deal with him. But aside from that, like, this is just like a farming tool kind of for heroes that don't want to get Yasha. Like, they don't have any aside from this guy's Forge Spirits, there's nothing that this really does. Which it's not enough of a reason to go for it. Do you have any questions?
No, that makes sense. In terms of drafting it, like, I know it's better in mid and safe lane. So what's the deal with the off lane? Is it bad in a dual lane, or is it just,
It's kind of Are you asking about my opinion in my games?
Well,
in one of my games, it wouldn't do well because
right.
usually the lanes are drafted and played efficient enough that a hero without an escape, like if I see a Dragon Knight on the enemy team as the offlaner, I'm just gonna zone the hell out of him at level 1 or 2, because if you compare him, like if this is basically the same as Timbersaw's thing, kind of, his reactive armor, but Timbersaw gets an escape also, which makes him an offlaner. This guy doesn't have an escape, unless you kind of like count your stun, but you really don't want to get your stun too early. But what you do need is, you need a way to lane early, as an offlaner. So this is like, both of these are your like sustaining and not dying tools, but you don't want to point in this early, and like you would, if you want to offlane it in a higher game and you want to have a chance of living, you probably would have to go 2 points in this and 1 point in this by level 3, and then you don't even have breathe fire, so it's like, what are you doing? So it's kind of like you're getting away with it because it's lower games and they don't effectively harass you in the early game, and that's going to be the weakness with this, where if you get pushed out in the first few minutes, you're going to be useless for the rest of the game, because this is a hero that if he falls behind, he's just done, and
because like you said, he chops off lane.
Yeah, and your peak isn't even that much stronger than everyone else's. Like I'd say in the early game he's like 5% stronger than most people. It's just he's so safe and hard to kill that he can just run at your towers with the BKB and you can't stop him, and he'll just corrosive breath them down. But if he's weak, then you can blow him up very easily. So he's kind of like, if you throw him mid lane, he's most likely going to be safely average with his farm, which is what he needs to be strong. But if you stop him from being average with his farm, then he falls off really hard because he's balanced around it being so hard to stop him from getting that if he's in the mid lane. So that's. Do you have any other questions on that? Did I cover that well enough?
No, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, the only reason I've been picking him is because he can fit into more than one lane.
Yeah.
You get overpicked a lot in the level, I guess, for like crashing or just web lane and stuff, even if other people are already.
Mirana's another hero that's good for that.
Yep.
She can go anywhere. If you want to play her, like her leap makes her a really good offlaner because you have 3 escapes.
Yeah, I'm offlaning Mirana a fair bit.
And then you have your farming tool, so she can go offlane, and then mid she just like nukes everything down and then goes in jungles, and then carry she has really good agility gains, so she can right click later, and then she also gets the mana burn at 20 with a diffusal. You just kind of like destroy everyone if you get Manta. Who else would be good for that? I think position 4 would be really good for you.
Yep.
Because a lot of those heroes can offlane also. So like a Clockwork or an Earthshaker or a Kunkka. Kunkka can't really offlane too well. Tusk. They're really good in dual offlanes if you have to, and they're really good with roaming too. And they're beefy, so you can have impact from the start of the game.
Sorry, you just said that he Earthshaker, Tusk, and...
Earthshaker, Tusk, Clockwork. Not so much Kunkka, I don't think. Night Stalker. I'm looking at heroes that like can position 3 or 4. Most of these heroes are like strictly 4 now, but they originated in the 3. So they still can offlane. It's just they're not very meta right now because they're better as roamers, and then there's better offlaners too. So they're like, but they're good enough. They're much better than Dragon Knight for offlaning, but they're still not like. If I was gonna go offlane, I wouldn't strictly pick one of these. But if I had to offlane and I was one of these guys, I wouldn't be like horribly upset about it.
Too bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sand King's another one of them. Sand King can be a really good laner. If you're against a melee carry, you just get a point in this, you attack all of the enemy creeps, and then if he shows up, you last hit it and they all like blow up, and he takes like 300 damage and he's slowed.
Yeah, I've been subject to that before.
Yeah, that shit's fucking annoying in the right situations. But yeah, if you don't have any questions, I'm gonna cut the recording here and then start putting it up.
Okay, sure, no, that's fine.